Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show. It's our Monday night weekly roundup. We're taking a look back at weekend's action for our club sides across the region. I'm Stephen Brown. Joining me on tonight's show, we've got Chris Bell, Lewis Sale, Stephen Downs and Jason Booker as well. If you're watching along, please do smash a like on the video. Remember to subscribe to the channel and also get your comments in about everything we're discussing on tonight's show. Well, we're going to kick things off. We're going to start with the West Yorkshire derby from the weekend. It was Huddersfield Town, Leeds United 1. Jason, you and I did our review yesterday, so I am going to kick things off with Steve first. Steve, first question. Were you ashamed with the way Huddersfield Town played?
Oh, Jesus.
I mean, it's a fair question.
Let's grab the popcorn, boys.
Let's let Jay go first, and then I have right of reply to all of his.
No. Yeah. Brownie set it up for you. We did the review.
Yeah, and he's done that, so he's done that, so you have right reply. Absolutely shocking hosting by a Leeds fan, but there we go. If you want my unbiased opinion, no,
it's impossible.
We did what we needed to do. And that we got a valuable point, and now we can move on to the rest of the season, which I'm mightily glad of, to be honest, because over the last 24 hours I'm fed up of hearing crap opinions, to be fair, but there we go.
Is that exclusive to Huddersfield Town fans or Leeds fans? Or
No, that's excluding Huddersfield Town fans.
It
were doing so well until he just said excluding all Town fans because
right. So Jay, are you going to let me speak?
I literally just said I agreed with everything that you just said. You were doing so well until that point where you went back into that delusional bubble of everything that Town did was perfect. Like it's just. But anyway, please continue.
No, you continue.
No, continue.
No, you continue.
Come on, Steve. Me and Jay, we rattled on for an hour yesterday, so this is your turn now, mate.
Right, well, thank God. So, basically, I will bring up a number of points. Jay will disagree with all of them, and you probably will as well. So, Town needed to do what they did. We're playing second in the league. I know that me and Lou had a very tit-for-tat interesting conversation on the last podcast, but I believed that we were going to put up a test against Leeds. How well we were going to do on the day, I didn't really know because of the firepower that you guys have. I think, and it's my opinion, that you've got the best front four in the division, and I think that's potentially having fruit now because of the way Leicester are and Southampton are dropping points. So I believe you've got the best. I actually think collectively you've got the best team in the division. I think we dealt with Rutter really well. I don't think he had an effect on the game really. I think, obviously there are decisions that have different opinions, but I think overall in terms of gameplay, Rutter did not a lot, to be honest. I also believe that Brodie Spencer was the man of the match. I thought for him to deal with first Nonto, who didn't really do a lot in the game. Then he got switched over when we had to make an early substitution, when Nakayama went off, so he had to go and face Somerville on the other side. And again, he did really well up against Somerville. And then in the second half, he came back to the side with Nonto for the majority of the second half. And when you put Dan James on, I thought for the time that he played against Dan James didn't do a lot either. So for me, Brodie Spencer, being a teenager, was the best player on the pitch for me. I thought he had an outstanding display against three potentially of the best players in the division. We come on to the decisions. So the first decision is obviously a yellow card against Kasumu, which I believe wasn't even a yellow card. It wasn't even a foul, in my opinion. The second decision is obviously the Pearson tackle, which I can see being an orange card, not a red card. I don't think it's as bad as what Leeds fans were saying, but I think it was an orange. I think it was an orange card. I think it was. I've seen them given and I've seen them not given, so it was an in between. The one on Jonathan Hogg, I believe, yes, it was. Hang on.
It's Lou shaking his head that's making me laugh. because even his blood blowing up.
It's just my opinion, Jay. Lou might have a different opinion, but it's just my opinion, and I'm here to give it. So the yellow card on Jonathan Hogg for the first one is fine. It's a yellow card. The second challenge, I agree. He was an idiot. He was a bit stupid, and it's a dangerous flail of the arm, and so he deserved to be sent off. And for me, I think if we'd have had 11 men left on the field, we potentially would have won that game, because I didn't see how Leeds were getting back into it if we'd have had 11 men on the field. Yeah, you might have, potentially been fitter than us and faster than us and kept your pace up. And obviously with the substitutions you brought off the bench, you may have got back into it. But we'll never know because we went down to 10 men. The only other thing that I would say from the game in terms of the decisions is that Bamford's arm, I watched your podcast the other day on Sunday, and Jay, you actually used the words Bamford only brushed his arm against Jack's Radoni's face. That's false in my opinion. He should have been given at least a yellow card for a flailing arm into Jack's face, because it's not like Jack just stayed on his feet. He actually went down from the challenge. So that's my opinion on that. I think overall a point was deserved. I thought we deserved to take lead because we were the better team for the majority of the first half in terms of the shots that we created, the chances that we had. Yes, you should have scored both your chances. I totally agree with you. How Somerville's not scored that chance in the first couple of minutes, I will never know. We probably all could have scored that goal. But we did what we needed to do. And then in the second half, after the sending off, it's a change of tactics. We had to go more defensive. You had to go for it because it would have been a poor result if you'd have lost to us. And I think you deservedly got a point out of the game at the end of the game. Both teams go home happy. Let's just move on and crack on to the next couple of fixtures that we have. You'll go hopefully smash the crap out of Stoke and we'll beat Cardiff. That's my honest opinion and analysis of the game.
Yeah, we've got here Gail. Hello, Brownie, Jason, and Steve. Dirty Old Town. Now, the funny thing is, obviously, Leeds famously called Dirty Leeds, but I think we should be switching that up now, shouldn't we? Dirty Town is what I'm thinking now. After that, I mean, fair enough, Steve. You've offered a defence of the situation there, but I just thought you were a disgrace, an absolute disgrace that first half, the way they went about it. But I totally get it. Like I said on the stream yesterday, I respect it. And like Jason said, if you just owned it, I just say.
I'm going to say Steve has owned it. I think Steve's reaction in that 5 minutes that he's just spoke there is exactly what I would like to have seen from all Town fans. What's blown my mind is this kind of delusion that it was anything other than what it was.
We had to play that way, Jay. We had to play that way. And that was the only way we were going to get anything out of the game. And I accept, if that's what we needed to do, I'm fine with it.
The first 15 minutes you didn't, though. The first 15 minutes you actually played better than us without kicking us off the pitch.
Yeah, but we if you present over 90 minutes, we were never going to beat you for 90 minutes. Steve, playing that way. That's my honest opinion. Yes, we did well for 15. Yes, for 15 minutes we did really well. But for 90 minutes, you're going to beat us all day long if we try and play that way. So I accept that we were dirty, right? But we needed to be dirty. And I'm not going to apologise for us being dirty and getting people yellow carded, because it's a derby game and our lads showed some passion. And whether you think it's dirty or not, we can all disagree and agree on the type of challenges and what colour cards it should have been given. But I accept that we had to do that to get the point that we needed. And I was delighted at the end of the game when we came away with a point.
I think that's completely and utterly fair. I really do. Like, the facts are that for Town to have been 1-0 up at half time, I think I summed it up perfectly with what I said the other day, in that for Town to be 1-0 up at half time, they had to sacrifice 5 yellow cards and a man sending off. They had to be down to 10 men. That's what it took for them to get themselves 1-0 up at half time. And I think there was a lot to like about what Town did. I thought they defended really well at times in the second half. I don't think we were fully at its best. You know, I've thought about it a lot since the game, and it was 2.5 days after we put in what we put in at Chelsea. The fixture list is coming at us fast. And Town would bang up for it. They'd had a lot more rest than us, and they fully deserved something from the game. I completely and utterly agree with that.
I agree. Sorry, yeah, go on.
I was just going to say the only thing that I don't agree with Steve is they should have been down to 9. The foul on, I mean, the Hogg elbow was a straight red, but that didn't really matter. And the Pearson one was worse than any of the other ones that we saw. It was a horrible challenge. If it had gone in with any more force, he breaks his leg.
I've seen him given, and I've not seen him given, Jay.
That don't make it not a red card, though. Just because some referees have decided to only give a yellow for that's not.
Well, it kind of does because it's objective for the referee only to give him a yellow. I mean, it'd have been interesting if we would have had VAR at the ground, and I predict if we had had VAR at the ground, it would have been a red card.
It'd have gone.
But we didn't, and so for me, he got away with a yellow. And you see tackles. I mean, there's been some horror tackles this weekend that have actually been worse than Pearson's up and down the divisions. If you look at it.
Well, I'm amazed we haven't got any injuries from that game, Stephen. That's my concern. Leeds are already we've got players like Somerville, Rutter, who are so close to the edge, going into the red zone with fatigue and everything. And then you get these Town players raking their studs down them.
Steve, your head's gone.
The referee lost control. The referee bottled it. The referee was there. We'll just let Huddersfield kick our players all over.
He was crap for us as well, Steve. He was rubbish for both sides. His consistency.
He didn't protect our players.
Steve, you're saying one challenge from Bamford. That's it, and that was arguably a yellow card or not. I mean, that's not a defence to say that it was crap for you because there weren't anything to talk about other than a kind of a Bamford arm. I mean, if you want to give him a yellow card, give him a yellow card, fine.
No, I'm just saying his overall performance was rubbish as a referee. It was, in my opinion. But what I'm saying, Jay, is you've actually been level-headed here. I'm being level-headed. The only one that's not being level-headed is Steve.
I'm neutral.
Oh yeah.
Truthfully, I'm happy to in the conclusion of the whole picture. I'm quite happy to get out of it with a point. Considering the way that the day went, in the aftermath, we really should have got 3 points. Somerville hitting the post, playing 10 men against 10 men for 50 minutes. It felt like we should have won the game. But really, bigger picture, how many games unbeaten or how many games we've won in a row? A point ain't the end of the world in a tricky fixture away at Town, who, recently buoyed by a new manager, played some good stuff. It is a big game for Town, for the players, and and for the fans. It's not the end of the world. It's just not the end of the world for me to get out of that with a point.
But the other thing that I would
look at QPR losing to Leicester.
But the other thing that I would say is if we play like that, which is hard for teams at the bottom because you don't tend to have the consistency. But if we play like that against other teams that we've got coming up, I don't think we'll go down. I just don't see us going down at all. I agree. Because we've got a lot.
I mean, if they're all suspended, you might struggle, might you?
You might have to play under 18s then, Steve.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'd like to get your interpretation who you thought was the man of the match, because I know that you thought Tom Lees had a good game, which he did.
Tom Lees was my man of the match.
I personally, I thought Brodie Spencer was, because I know that, obviously you had Archie Gray on your side, who I think will, and he already is a top footballer, but I thought Brodie Spencer, who doesn't have a name to play off, such as Archie, and hasn't had the world-class academy that Leeds do have, I thought Brodie's becoming an absolutely outstanding talent.
Can we just bring Chris into this, because Chris looks like he's ready to pop. Chris, please tell us what you think, mate. Tell us what you think.
I'm just watching things back and just looking at the extended highlights that Huddersfield have put out, and am I right? Right, what was Casemiro booked for? Because I've struggled to find the full highlights with all these challenges and bookings. Because
he was booked for a challenge on the edge of the box where basically the ball came out, it bounced up, and Cass went to go with his leg, and the Leeds player went to go chest it, and basically the leg hit him in like his
high boot.
He missed the ball.
I've had nightmares about these.
No, yeah, but
he missed the ball completely.
The ball's going that quick I don't think it's a yellow card personally.
The Pearson one, is that where he takes out Somerville, who then accidentally takes out a Huddersfield player? Is that what John?
No,
that's
it's not that one. I mean, there were several, mate. This is why you're struggling.
Yeah.
But the Pearson one was a very obvious one. He just Pearson rakes his left boot down the back of Somerville's left Achilles. Basically.
Unsurprisingly, nobody's put it in the highlights package.
Yeah, shock horror. You can find it on Twitter.
I would have expected Leeds to actually, if it was going to be that kind of thing about it, I genuinely would have expected Leeds to have just included that, just to make a point of it, sort of thing.
They did put a nice tweet out there.
Right. At the end of the day, it's a derby game. Like I said to you at the time, like, do you remember when football was like hard? Do you remember when footballers weren't soft as and when it was a contact sport and people just cracked on with it and got on with it?
Different game, though, Chris.
I agree. I agree.
This is where I don't want to sound like John Coleman, who's out of a job, but I'm falling out of love with football. Like, honestly, like,
Chris, you need to go back and watch that first half. I'm not having that. Like,
I'm absolutely all for doing what you need to do. I like it'd be like football can be boring at the best of times, like, but it'd be more boring if everyone tried to play the same, everyone nicey. And I am all for doing what you have to do to get results.
Lou's about to pop now. I want to hear Lou's.
I do want to hear Lou's opinion, but I just don't know.
If this was happening to you, desperately trying to get points in a relegation scrap, you'd accept to do what they got to do.
Just on that, Chris, right?
Countering this battle, it's a derby, a first game for the new gaffer. Crack on with it, move on, go get your points elsewhere for Leeds. But it's football at the end of the day. You just. Who cares? Crack on.
Chris, just before Lou comes in, I did see Nonto, right, in one moment, and he acted like he'd been sniped from the top of the fantastic media stand. And 3 seconds later, get up and jog like there's no tomorrow. So, Anyway, Lou, come in.
Wow. I didn't want to interrupt any of that because I thought it was great listening to you all guys having a right good go at each other. Having watched it, I agree with some points everybody's made. I thought Casemiro was so lucky to be on the pitch at half time because he should have been booked in the first 2 minutes on Somerville.
Yeah, he should have been.
I'm sorry, Steve, but that's a booking. Any other time during the game, that's a booking. The one from Pearson, I'm absolutely baffled how that's not a red card. And with the greatest respect, it's nowhere near an orange. It's a red card. Every day it's a red card. And to be fair, I know he's got a job to do to try and stop arguing with the best wing in that league. And there is a line, Chris, I completely get it, but it's a horror tackle. It's a nasty one. Hogg deserved to get sent off. Like I say, whether that was 2 yellows or a red. And I agree with you, Steve, that you had to do what you could do to win the game. I thought what were really interesting is that Brighton Wright was looking to Matty Pearson a lot for guidance on the touchline a few times when the camera panned to him. I thought that was quite an interesting kind of dynamic because it was almost like he was really relying on his players to help him out through that game. I'm not saying he didn't know what he was doing. He clearly did because he set you up to be quite, well, I say quite solid. Stop Leeds in whatever form that could do, and I think that's fair. Yeah, well, that's one word. And I actually thought Huddersfield were actually very good on the counter-attack. I thought it looked a real threat. And I actually thought that was a really good tactic from you guys, Steve, because obviously Leeds haven't conceded many goals. They did against Chelsea. There's a little bit of hangover from that game. They've not conceded 3 in probably all season, if I'm being honest. Not far off it. So I thought that were a really good way of going about it. I said to you guys at half-time, I was surprised in a way that when you went down to 10 men, you didn't maybe balance the squad a bit in terms of putting Connor Roberts on straight on at half-time and kind of moving Archie Gray midfield. I think Farke kind of realised that he had to change something because whatever they were trying to do just didn't work. And I think probably this sounds really bizarre to say, a point is okay for both teams, but probably the other results around them and the way the table is at the moment, probably both teams would have wanted to win as well because you look at where Leeds are
for us, Lou. The point actually ended up better for us.
Probably, and then I think there's also a bit where Town are also getting really dragged into it with a point, even though it's a good point against one of the best teams in the league. So probably a point might have been a fair result, but I thought Town were lucky to be with 10 men at half time. I really did.
Yeah, we've got friend of the show here, Zach. The irony hurts. Leeds fans with flags branding themselves dirty Leeds, more than one way to skin a cat. We had to do what we needed to do to get a result. Listen, all kind of, wooden spoon stirring aside. If I was a Town fan, I would have loved it, to be honest, I've got to admit, because you're playing a top team and you've got to do everything. And Huddersfield was certainly fighting. It's like I said in the group chat, though, I mean, it was like night and day compared to Darren Moore's team. Oh. I mean, it was just, you just kind of knew that it was just going to be completely different. And to be honest, I was worried. I was certainly worried because certainly after the first chance we created, we struggled after that. We really did struggle. And, I think Radoni had a great game. I thought we were really struggling. I mean, Sorba Thomas delivery, I got nightmares about that because the way he whips in a ball is just something else, isn't it? Causes all sorts of problems.
And Melier's save in the first 10, 15 minutes as well from the set piece was a big one. Leeds probably should have scored definitely in the first few minutes. It could. I'm not saying it will. It could have been a different game, but Town score straight after that. That could have been a bit of a different game as well. I thought it was a fascinating game. I actually thought, as a neutral watching it, I really enjoyed it. I thought both teams wanted to win in their own right, and I actually think what Town did kind of shocked Leeds. If I'm being honest, I don't think they'd have been expecting that. Which I think's hats off to Brighton Wright and the team. I'll be honest though, in back of a point about Brighton Wright is playing maybe that style of football for the rest of the season. I don't think you can. I generally don't think you can. I think those kind of situations against Leeds in a big derby, first home game, the adrenaline's pumping, everything's going for you.
Specific.
You can't keep that momentum all for that season. You've got to find a different way to win games because arguably.
I agree with Luke completely.
I think you've got to have a few different plans in the book, and I'm sure they will do. There's the quality there within the team to stay up, but the other teams around them at the weekend have not had bad results. So that's
why can't we play that way, Lou? I mean, what do you mean?
Because I think there's different teams. I think you've got to play different teams, different styles. I think the teams you're playing with the greatest spectrum is not as good as Leeds. And I think, arguably, from what I saw on Saturday, I actually think you're not a bad footballing team, actually.
Yeah.
And I think you can play some people off the park more than what you probably did on Saturday. And that's not being disrespectful to Saturday, because I agree with what Zach said and everybody else has said. You needed to do to get your result. Nobody's criticising that point whatsoever. My argument is, I think we've got to have plan A, plan B for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I see what you mean, mate. Like, obviously, the game beforehand, the win that we had at Watford, yes, it was his first game, but that was a totally different kind of kettle of fish and game altogether than what you saw at Leeds. You would have seen, obviously, what we did at Watford, and basically we did play a lot of the time them off the park. We went up against them, but we actually played football against them. I'm not saying we didn't play football on Saturday, because I think at times we did, but we had to do what we needed to do on Saturday.
100%.
The difference is, I agree. Sorry, I got confused with your point, but I agree that in the games coming up, Cardiff is a good example on Wednesday of a side that's very much like Watford, inconsistent, not the best at times, and you can get at Cardiff. And I think that we've got the players to be able to get at the likes of Cardiff. Yeah. The problem for us is, obviously, Saturday was a battle, and it's taken a lot out of the lads. I just, what I'd hope is that we've got the amount of legs that we have to get a win against Cardiff, because then we've got Sunday against West Brom, and that's going to be another battle, because Corberan's going to come to the ground, and obviously he's in the playoffs now with the Baggies, and he'll be wanting to definitely beat us and get one over on us.
Why do you guys get so much more rest than us? What's all that about? We play at 12:30 after playing the Cup on Wednesday. You then play Wednesday, we play Tuesday, and then we play Friday, and you play Sunday.
Sky, I'm telling you, Sky are single-handedly trying to keep us in the Championship.
No, they're not.
We had this last time.
Have you seen how many games they've changed for Sky? We're playing Tuesday and then Friday.
Well, to be honest, I don't want to go to the John Smiths on a Sunday at 12 o'clock, if I'm honest. So I'm a bit paid off. So... and to be fair, you lot shouldn't have done so well in FA Cup, should you? That's why I don't have any sympathy with what Leicester.
But what about the league games?
No, all I'm saying, what I'm saying, Jay, is Leicester. No, all I'm saying is that their managers come out and said about the fixture list. Well, sorry, mate, you shouldn't be doing so well in the FA Cup, should you? You know,
was there not a stat before Leeds went up to the Prem that Leeds were the most selected EFL team by Sky for telly coverage?
By an absolute mile.
Isn't that just because you're massive anyway?
It's just because of the eyes, isn't it?
Don't put that in their head, Chris.
It's true. Like the fan base obviously want to watch the games, but then also opposition fans want to watch us because they want to see us lose. It is a fact. Like people are more likely to watch Leeds as an EFL Championship game than they are. Well, any other team in the division.
You wanted to say Huddersfield then, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
I mean, that's true. But any other team in the division, like I'd even put Southampton and Leicester in that. They don't drag as many eyes onto them as Leeds do.
I think as well on Saturday, what's really going to be a challenge for Leeds actually is Huddersfield have given a bit of a blueprint for some of the teams to maybe face Leeds and actually see how they can attack it. And don't get me wrong, Joe, I'm not saying it's going to happen every game, but
we've seen it before, Lou.
I'm not saying it's to Leeds. I'm not saying it is, but I actually think that teams can maybe go to Leeds. Well, probably not go to Welling Road as much, but you know, they've got something in the back pocket where they know that they can challenge them and compete against them. Because with the greatest respect to Huddersfield, Leeds are a better footballing team, and there's a lot of other teams in this league where Leeds are better. So if I'm one of them teams who are going to be playing Leeds soon, I'd be looking at Huddersfield going, we can do something against Leeds because you're not invincible.
Well,
I still think you've got the quality to beat it, but I think there's an element in there that teams may take some of that learnings from Saturdays into the rest of the games. I do.
No,
your
I
next
agree
four
completely.
games
Next
4 games is actually vital for us, which is weird because I think you've got Stoke, Millwall, Sheff Wednesday, and somebody else down there, haven't you?
My thing at the minute,
QPR coming up, or Rotherham. I think you've got Rotherham to play or something. I can't remember.
My worry at the moment, Jane, I don't know if you think this as well, but I'm worried about the players' condition now because I'm not just talking about getting kicked to death all over on Saturday. I'm talking about Somerville not training.
Let it go, Steve. Let it
go. Rutter holding his ribs every 5 seconds. I mean, we look as if we're getting really fatigued, and Farker wants to keep that same 11 game out as much as possible. But with the schedule, I just don't see how that can continue, really. We know Jadon Anthony's out tomorrow.
His mum, bless him. It's her funeral tomorrow or today, I believe it is. So, you know, thoughts to him and to her because there's bigger things than football, bless her. But you're absolutely spot on, mate. The facts is that the games are starting to catch up on some of these players. We've now been told that Somerville's not training. He's playing pretty much the games and then not training week to week. That's a real problem. And I think you're seeing that in some of the performances, and the ball's been forced to him constantly on Saturday. And I'm like, go down the other bloody side. I don't want to make excuses for Saturday. However, I am going to say as a little caveat that Gio wasn't at it. He'd been injured all week. He came back into training on the Friday and then played on the Saturday, and he made a big difference. He wasn't confident getting on the ball and driving at the defenders in the way that he had been doing, and that opens up them spaces that we'd seen recently. It was a big miss on Saturday. I'd have almost rather him not have played, and then just
stopped him though. Let me finish on
it before that. You don't watch Leeds on the weekly, and Gio has been bodying 2, 3, 4 defenders off that have tried stopping him. You didn't really have to, because he didn't go and look for the ball in the ways that he has been doing most recently. If you're watching Leeds every week, you'd see it. I'm not saying that he didn't do a good job. I'm not trying to take away from what Town did, because Town did so much that I really, really like. I thought second half he defended extremely well. I'm not negating that at all. I just think it'd have been a different to back on what Steve's saying and the point about the fatigue. Going into tomorrow's game, going into Friday's game, if we're seeing that version of Rutter, we're going to struggle to break these low blocks down. And it is because he's carrying knocks and injuries. So it is a concern, Brownie, 100% a concern for me. And I hope that Danny Farker can find different ways to solve the puzzle, because it feels a little bit too much like just throw on attackers. Yol Perot were on, Pat were on, Dan James were on. Jaden Anthony were on. At one point, we literally had them all on. I mean,
I said to my dad, like, is there an attacker that they're not going to throw off the bench? To be fair, and my dad just
Matteo Joseph.
It's just like they've chucked everybody at it now. Like literally, we've got the whole team of Leeds attackers. Like, but
which is a compliment to you, Downsy, isn't it? In terms of your team, I think this is what we're saying. There's a compliment for you, and I think going back to Jay's point as well is that. And don't take this the wrong way at all, Downsy, because like I say, I'm not criticising Huddersfield at all for what they did. But in them kind of games, Rutter is needed to get Leeds 3 points.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah, you're spot on. And like I said, the version that we've seen of Gio, certainly this year, 2024, he's been bodying teams by himself at times. He's been opening up them gaps that I've not really seen from many number 10s in this division. He's been so good. And I was out of the Chelsea game, which was a massive disappointment because I'd love to have seen him play against Chelsea at the Bridge. And then I don't really think he was fully fit for Saturday's game. For me, it's not the version that we've seen, Brownie. I don't know what you think. I would say that's the worst version of Rutter that we've seen since Ipswich away, about 5-6 games into the season, something like that.
Yeah. And he's still
Can I also caveat? I want to make 2 points. One, I want to come back to Lou's point about Pearson. But firstly, on Rutter, I think you see other players in other teams, and we'll use Phil Foden as a very bad example, but it's an example all the same. People get stuck into Phil Foden all the time, and yet he gets up and gets on with it and still produces the goods in big games. And it don't matter how many players have gone into him in previous weeks. And yet he might be carrying an injury Rutter, but when it's the big games, you need to turn up. But
he does.
But he didn't on Saturday.
Yeah, but then there's a big difference in turning up in big games and being injured in a game. Yeah, if he's carrying an injury,
constantly kicked.
Yeah, but there's a difference between being kicked and being injured. Yeah, like carrying an actual injury during a 90-minute game is very different to being kicked. Yeah,
shouldn't have played him, man.
Well, that's potentially a question. He didn't play in midweek, did he? He weren't even in the squad. So I agree with that point, but I don't agree with the point that you can kind of loosely make an example that other players get kicked, so he should be able to turn up. He's turned up all season. He's, in no disrespect to Town, he's come to the front and dispatched of better footballing teams than Town, teams that have caused us more problems than Town.
Yeah.
So, it were man of the match only 2 weeks ago, the involvements that he had at Leicester and the Plymouth game the week before. So, for me, I don't think...
That's great, Jay. If you beat Leicester, that's great. But you also need to come to teams like us and beat us if you want to get promoted.
I mean, look, I'm going to take this moment to kind of go on a bit of a tirade about Leeds fans losing their minds about this. And I think Town fans have kind of jumped on the bandwagon a little bit with this. We've taken 28 points out of 30. We've won 9 straight and then drawn 1 game. We need to not lose our heads. Like, all of a sudden, we've got this kind of hoodoo that we can't win away again. Or like,
Did you see the comment from the fan on Twitter about hopefully we'll get out of this bad run?
This blip. I've seen somebody say that we've had a blip. Like, it's unreal. 9 wins out of 10, 28 points out of 30. It's unbelievable.
Going for a record on Saturday and you didn't win, and now it's a blip.
It's mind-boggling.
I only dream of a blip like that. Jesus Christ. It's
mind-boggling. So, yeah, to those fans that are of that kind of mindset, screw your heads back on, switch back in. It's gonna take several more twists and turns before the end of the season. We might even drop points against Stoke or Sheffield Wednesday. They're not easy games, and every game now between now and the end of the season is going to be tough. Everybody's got something to fight for. No, it's true though, Steve, isn't it? Like every team down there.
I know it's so much to play for. Now that we've played each other, can you just go beat everybody else?
We'll try, mate. Fantastic. We'll certainly try, and we're certainly capable of doing it.
I just wanted to come back to Lou's point about Pearson and Brian Wright, because I think it was a very fascinating observation, mate, and obviously not something I could have observed on the day. So thanks for bringing it up. One thing I'd say about Brian Wright is we have to remember that it's his second game in charge, so he's still learning a lot about the players. You can learn a lot of them about them on the training ground, but you also learn probably double the amount in games, don't you? How they deal with the pressure and things like that. And so, Matty's played in a hell of a lot of fixtures and a lot of fixtures like what Saturday is and what we needed to do. And so I don't think Ryan Wright has got a difficulty about taking advice off his players. I actually like that, because one thing that Darren said that he always did was he had discussions with the players, but that became clearly obvious that he didn't, because a lot of the players didn't do what he instructed on the pitch, or if they did do, they didn't do it very well. Where, in his other clubs, apparently what he has had is a very close sort of relationship with every single squad player. In his first couple of days, he's gone up to Jaheim Headley before Watford and asked him how he's doing with his injury. Jaheim's not been in the squad for 2 months. He's not even been near a bench. So, if he's sitting down and having a 20-minute chat with Jaheim, who's been injured for 9 weeks, then he's going to have an even closer relationship, or try to, in a big game with somebody like Matty Pearson and Tom Lees. And I think the one thing that we have got, which Warnock said last season, that we don't have a lot of leaders. I think what we do have, though, is a hell of a lot of experienced heads in our group, which can lead and has had to lead the younger lads in the group for the last couple of seasons. Definitely. So I think it was a good observation, mate.
No, I agree, and I think you have got an half decent leadership group, and I think obviously, despite what we said about Pearson's tackle, he's obviously going to lean on his plays, and I would expect him to continue to do that as long as he's in charge. I think, don't get me wrong, it's like I said, it was only an observation, but it also probably gets some players buy-in as well, that he's prepared to talk to them, get ideas from them. And like you said, Pearson's been there, done it. He's been in the big games, like you say. So, and also it's hard because, don't get me wrong, never played at that level, but Pearson's in the thick of it. He's living like literally that moment of playing a game. So he's probably got a really good, solid opinion of what's to do. And I mean, it would have been interesting in some respects if Pearson hadn't been on the pitch. Who else would he have gone to maybe get some advice off?
Tom Lees. Tom
Lees probably would have done.
Lees.
So, but it'd be interesting.
I think that's the thing, though, Lou. Like, Matty knows how the players are reacting in that moment, and he doesn't. So I think it's really good that he's gone and asked for that advice, mate.
Yeah, like I say, it want anything against Brighton, right? I think it's a clever way of doing it. Is getting buy-in from his players, because as a new manager, or if anybody goes into a new job at work, for example, it's you need people to buy into your beliefs and tactics and whatever you need to do. So it's no criticism. It'd be interesting to see if that continues for the rest of the season, because you have to be all in it together like you were on Saturday.
I don't know what everybody else. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to ask Lou, like, obviously Lou watched the whole fixture. I know, Chris, you didn't, but did you? What would have been your opinion, Lou, if we'd have had 11 men on the pitch? Or do you think obviously we can't really say that because we didn't, but I have the opinion that I think if we'd have had 11 men on the pitch, that we'd have made it even more difficult for Leeds. And
you don't get to half time in that game state if you have 11 men on the pitch.
I know, but all I'm saying is, like, in terms of Lou's view of the game, do you think if we had have had 11 men on the pitch that Leeds get back into it still, or?
I don't know. It's hard to say with the dynamics of the game. I'll be honest. I don't think it's controversial. Leeds are a better footballing team than Huddersfield, in my opinion, and I think Leeds would have probably still had enough. But it's hard to say with 11 against 11. It's hypothetical, isn't it? I think the way you started in terms of where you wanted to play football and the way you went about it was good. And I'm not saying you weren't good throughout the game. It was interesting, that change of play dynamic as it went on in that, especially in the first half and into the second half. I think also what probably bizarrely probably worked in your favour, Downsy, is that you had to bring Matos on to counter that Todd going off. And I think bringing Matos on really helped you. I was surprised when I saw him on the bench, but he probably helps deny the likes of Rutter to probably get into a proper full floor, even though he might not be fully fit. So in some respects, it might have actually done you a bit of a favour to probably go down to 10 men. I think you'd probably win the game against Leeds? You've got the ability on the counter-attack, but I still thought the biggest thing for me was Leeds had that strength in depth that arguably Town don't have at the moment. Leeds have probably got more game changers and winners, and have got probably more something about them in that final third that could have probably got more of a line. Like I say, it's a good point for both. But there's not much else. So we all agree, don't we? It's just interesting of all the different opinions we've got individually as your own teams.
It's just unfortunate at half time that he had to take Danny Ward off, because I think Danny was doing a good job up there, like holding the ball up and chasing things down. And it's different with Bergsorg up there. He's not really as a.
It is, but he had a good game though, Steve. He did.
He did. No, he did. I'm just saying he's not as physical as what Danny is. So
can I just ask before like Brownie and Chris take us off on a different kind of agenda, what everybody thinks about Leicester? Like, what do you? I'd just be interested to know Lou's and Steve's and obviously you guys' opinion. 3 losses in a row, the drop off that they've had. Like, I'd just be interested to know what you think will happen to them now for the rest of the season. That they're within 1 game now of Ipswich. It's nuts. I can't believe it personally.
It's an almighty, like, that's a blip.
Yeah.
And losing to the likes of QPR at home. That is. I couldn't believe it when I saw that result. To be fair, I mean, talk about leaving the door wide open. It's not even just ajar. It's wide open for me now.
Yeah.
The fact that it's only 2-point gap to Ipswich, a couple of points further back to yourselves. Like, I mean, it's just a shame for you almost that you've already beaten Leicester recently. If they were coming to this, and you still had to play them, that chance to really narrow the gap.
They do have everybody else to play, though. They have Southampton to play and Ipswich to play.
Yeah,
they've got the toughest run out of everybody at the top. I think.
Hull away, I think as well.
I think there's a chance they'll bottle it.
If they finish in the playoffs, if like Ipswich and Leeds are a top 2 or something daft, especially given that only a month or so ago we were kind of writing Ipswich off a bit and saying. Because they had their blip, to be fair, and we were thinking, probably playoffs for them. But
imagine if Southampton
messed this up and somehow Ipswich and Leeds are a top 2 or something.
No, imagine if Southampton and Ipswich are top 2 in the playoff finals, Leicester v Leeds. That is
I couldn't deal with that.
That actually is probably the most pressurised playoff final I think there will have ever been in the Championship.
You could be right.
Imagine that.
Maybe the QPR derby one. Do you remember that? Because that pretty much felt the demise. No, but the demise of derby kind of started there, didn't it?
Yeah.
But I think if it's Leicester Leeds in the playoff final, like
that is massive.
That's fire. That's fire. That, isn't it?
I don't want to sound disrespectful to Ipswich, but if you look at it the other way, if it's Leeds Southampton in the playoff final, or if it's Leicester versus Southampton, like either way, that's like a massive playoff final.
Me and Brownie were speaking about Ipswich the other day, and because I think everybody had wrote them off when they were 1 win in 9 or 1 win in 10 or whatever it was. We kind of like, right, they're going to start dropping in. They'll probably finish in the playoffs. And fair play to them. I mean, they have had a bit of fortune this season. They have. I mean, some of the goals that they keep on scoring are nuts, like deflections and flicks and stuff. Like it's crazy. But that aside, they have been unbelievable, and to rebuild and Kieran McKenna to restructure and refocus them, and a couple of really shrewd signings, Kiefer Moore coming in to replace. Top signing, and they've now won 5 on the bounce again. It's
you didn't rate it, yeah, January. You
Kiefer Moore.
Didn't really. If you go back and watch it, you didn't really rate that signing, and I said at the time it was the best signing in the Championship. That
I said no. I said that because at one point we were linked with him. And I thought
somebody said it was a poor signing.
I definitely don't think it's a poor signing. I mean, he's not a scorer of a lot of goals, but he definitely brings in a certain, they needed to replace Hurst, didn't they? Who was out for the rest of the season. And they also brought in Sarmiento, didn't they? Who I think is quite a smart signing. So
5 in 7 games is more. 5 in 7.
Yeah.
Just before we move,
top of the division is mad, and the bottom of the division.
Well, I
was
was just going to say, Steve, the bottom of the division. I mean, the result against Leeds is a good result in the context of the game itself, but actually, you look at the results over the weekend, and I mean, Sheffield Wednesday winning, QPR winning, Stoke winning. I mean, what are your thoughts on just how that's shaping up there at the minute?
I know Steve, but I do think that that's a point against Leeds that those around Huddersfield aren't going to get out of Leeds.
No, I don't, Chris, either. I don't. But I got home, right, and I got home at like 3:10 because the traffic was mad. and I've never seen 2 weekends in a row like it. Like the bottom 7 all won by Rotherham 2 weeks in a row, basically.
Yeah.
I'd take out maybe Blackburn because they played, I think, Swansea in 1 weekend. But
they're dropping like a stone as well, though, right?
Virtually everybody won. I've never seen a championship like. I thought it was difficult last year, and we did amazing to get out of it last year. And I actually think the fixtures that we have this year are kinder than what we had last year, which makes me hopeful that we can get out of it again. But I just that bottom, like, take Rotherham out of it because they're crap, but everybody Watford, right? You would have never said Watford were going to potentially go down, but they're only on 40 points. They're only on two points behind us. It's mad.
Steve, you could look all the way up to Middlesbrough. I mean, me and Browning were talking about Middlesbrough the other day. They started the season horrendously, lost 6 on the bounce or whatever. We were all kind of saying, Carrick, what the hell? And then they won like 7 in a row and ended up on the edge of the playoffs. Now they can't win a game again, and it's unbelievable.
Yep.
I think Sunderland's in a bad way. I think Plymouth are dropping. I think Millwall might be all right now because Harris just knows how to kick people, a bit like what you've said about us. But he definitely knows how to kick. He definitely knows how to kick people. Wednesday are picking up the odd result. QPR. I mean, how Elias Chair is still on a pitch, I have no idea. But
when I saw his goal scorer,
that's just another thing.
Just on that, it's because he's a fielder, hasn't he?
Yeah, it's because he's a fielder. Yeah, but he shouldn't be allowed, Chris. Shouldn't be allowed.
Don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you there, Steve. Like it's absolutely insane. But this is, in case anyone's actually wondering, how is it possible that you get a prison sentence and then end up a week later still cracking on for QPR?
Scoring goals.
What's going to be fascinating now, I think, going into this is like normally you get to probably 3 or 4 games before end of season where some teams have got nothing to play for. There's teams who it feels a very different game. You're going to come to this period of the season in Championship where every team's going to have something to play for. You normally can split the league into probably 3 or 4. You can split the Championship into 2. Those that are going still 3, but probably the top 3 for rest of the playoffs. And then you've got the rest of them that are fighting it out. There's not going to be any teams, metaphorically on the beach at all this season. Everything's got to be played for, and I think it's fascinating to watch. It really is.
It's the best league in the league.
You can't breathe in a Championship until the final whistle on Championship.
If you're a Rotherham fan, this is a very boring season for everyone. The club, isn't it? Like
they'll do the usual thing, though, Crystal. They'll come back up, mate. They'll just
it's an amazing league, and I can't wait to get the hell out of it.
But I agree. Blackburn are in big trouble. I think they're in big trouble. I still think Swansea are not great. But the big one for me is Mowbray not being in the dugout for Birmingham. I think that's mad. I mean, we don't know his illness, like, but that's just crazy, isn't it? That an experienced manager like him is not there to.
And he's a new manager. He would expect to come as a new manager as well and galvanise that team. It's such a blow.
I remember watching Blackburn earlier this season, and Sammy Schmodix were top scorer at the time, and they were good. I mean, we went to their place and ended up squeezing out a 2-0 win, I think it were on the day. But they were a good side. They were playing some good football, John Dale Thomason. And then he just kind of binned them, didn't he? And went off to international management. And they just carried on.
I don't think he's binned them. I think what happened is he had a falling out with board because the board, obviously it's the Venkies, and they've had all their assets collected in India, and they can't get money out of India, and so they couldn't buy any players because they've got no money. I mean, they have got money, but they just can't get hold of it, and so I think he fell out with the board, and that's why he just said, "Oh, sod you," and resigned. But they sacked him, didn't they? But yeah.
Oh dear. Well, I think we'll park the Championship discussion there. We've done a good 50 minutes on that, so nobody can say we've cut it short, can they? And hopefully that's the Leeds United and Huddersfield Town thing put to rest for a little bit.
I don't want to have to play them ever again, mate. I told you. We can give them a League Cup game in 5 years. They can lose 3-0 at Ellen Road.
We'll play the kids.
I was going to say we can all be friends again now because it's been hell this last 10 days.
Let's have a hug. Come on, Jay.
Virtual hug.
Stretch
We
out
can
the
have
arms.
a virtual hug.
Oh,
There you
God,
go.
I'm fucking COVID.
I noticed how Lou didn't join in that.
I'll stay on the outside watching in of you guys arguing.
Bradford
The
City
good news
game.
about this week. The good news about this week is Lou has still got his glasses on, so everything's fine.
Yes, I had to buy a new pair.
Yeah. No Bradford City game this week again, postponed. So Gaz is not on tonight's show, but hopefully he'll be back next week. So we look forward to chatting to him then.
Unfortunately, no. Garden Centre,
yeah.
Until that's postponed.
Yeah, so we're heading straight down to non-league. Unfortunately, we haven't got Mr. Dave Foy on either, Shaman Stats, to enlighten us on how the Shaman have been getting on. But Lewis, we'll come to you, mate. A bad day at the office for Halifax Town. God, Huddersfield Town. I can't get them off my brain. Halifax Town losing 2-0 to Bromley. A bit of a blow to their playoff hopes. They've been on a good run of form, but it's come to an end. A bit disappointing for them, really.
Yeah, I think to be fair, if it's difficult because Bromley are flying out being second. Yeah. They're not going to win. They're not going to win a title above Chesterfield, but that playoff place chase in some respects is just as fascinating. I think in the National League as it is a Championship. 2-0, yeah. But don't get me wrong, we're going to be disappointed because they've been on an half decent run of form. I think what will potentially hurt him in a next game or two is losing Adam George as well, last minute sending off. But, I think it's one where it probably would have been a bonus if we'd have got something out of it. But Bromley are flying at the moment, and I think they'd be probably one of the favourites along with Barnet to probably go up out of that chase. But Halifax is still knocking on the door. Yeah, it's a blow because obviously Aldershot beat Oxford 2-1, so there's 4 points difference now between them. And obviously, for the one that they just kept up with all the shots, so there's a bit of a gap appearing in there. But it sounds harsh. It didn't surprise me Bromley winning that game.
No, absolutely not. When you look at the positions there, it's Bournemouth up next. I guess a good opportunity to clock up a victory, isn't it? Get back on track a little bit.
Well, they need to, don't they? I think this is, like I say, with the gap appearing. Them and Alty are pushing the likes of Aldershot close. I think Hartlepool and Eastleigh and probably Southend, even to an extent, are probably just too far out of it. I think at the moment that'll probably change in the way my look. But yeah, I mean, Bournemouth sitting mid-table, which isn't probably where they've been used to in recent seasons. Because they've obviously been flying. 2 wins out of the last 5. I think Halifax have got to be targeting that one is to get at least a point and possibly 3 to keep the playoff chase going. Because, like I say, we've got the personnel to do it. And they're always, we keep saying it, don't we? You can almost copy and paste this into a lot of other podcasts we talk about with Halifax, but they don't concede a massive amount of goals, so they're always in the game at some point. But I don't think if they lose against Bournemouth, I think the pendulum of emotion might swing a bit from a bit of optimism to a little bit of pessimism.
Yeah, indeed. Dropping down then Farsley Celtic, they had a bit of a battering at Rush Hall on Tuesday, 4-1 lost there, but they've bounced back with a credible 0-0 against Brackley on Saturday there, Lou.
Yeah, I was really surprised. We said it last week, didn't we? I thought Farsley would have enough for Rush Hall at home. But Rush Hall have like you said, thrashed them 4-1, which I was really surprised about. And it's a result that I don't think many Farsley would have seen. But they've backed it up with a really credible draw against Brackley. Notoriously one of the toughest teams to go in that league. They're always around 4th or 5th. They're always in the playoffs. Very consistent, very structured and organised team. But for Farsley to go there and draw 0-0, and Atkinson's getting on in terms of the career appearances, the record for the club is a big thing for them as well. So I don't think that's at all a bad result. It's not a win, but it probably just puts Chews into a little bit more perspective rather than any kind of panic, any looking over the shoulder potentially. That 0-0 at Brackley is a really, really good result for him.
Yeah, exactly. And it's Alfreton Town up next as well. Going to be a tough test because they're sitting comfortably in 6th at the moment.
Yeah, you always know, again, you know what you're going to get from Billy Heath's team. Very, very direct, very physical. Have got the odd one or two players that will try and get in between the lines. And I think Farsley will be looking at Alfreton as probably a bit of a role model of what they can do in the next season or two, because Alfreton were, being honest, quite bang average in National League North for a number of years, not really challenging for the playoffs. And this is where Farsley are at the moment. They are an established National League North team at the moment. Playing Alfreton's going to be tricky, don't get me wrong, but that draw against Brackley is really going to, I think, boost a bit more confidence, take away from Tuesday's game at Rush Hall. And again, it wouldn't surprise me if we got a result against Alfreton. And what, again, is quite fascinating in that league is, again, that playoff chase. We say it about a lot of teams at the moment in a lot of leagues where it's very tight in between that 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th area. And Alfreton have just got to keep that momentum going from their perspective, because they've got Curzon knocking on door, Boston are in now around there as well. So for Farsley's perspective, I've said it before, I don't think we'll get playoffs. They're not going to get relegated, but for them to push on for the next few seasons in that league, they'll be looking at the likes of Alfreton and probably going, right, we can do something similar. So it'd be fascinating to see what happens in that one. But for Farsley's ambitions, they'll probably be looking to get something out of that at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Dropping down a further division then, and on our little thumbnail for the video, you may have seen a very happy Mr. Lewis Sale on there celebrating as Bradford Park Avenue beat Stafford Rangers 1-0, an absolutely vital win for the Avi Lou.
Massive. It was, obviously do follow Avenue and obviously help them what we can, but that was probably the must-win games you can possibly think of. To put it into perspective, Stafford and ourselves are on the same amount of points, and Stafford have a game in hand. We don't play next weekend, whereas we do against Wallington Rylands. So if you don't win that game, don't get me wrong, I always say these points are better on the board than games in hand, but at the same point, Stafford having 2 games in hand, you'd probably expect them to get a point, which would have put them above us in the table. So it had to be a must-win. And you felt that, I think, in the first half, Brian. I think both teams just didn't want to lose. It was very edgy, very cagey. There wasn't much in it at all. And even though we dominated possession, we didn't really probably do enough in that final third to really threaten them as much as what we should do. There was a lot of ball being played around probably in the first third, like in just before the halfway line, but the runs from the wingers in the central positions were just a little bit lacking. We're probably half a step off where we needed to be. And our game at the moment under Whittaker is to be quite, how can I put it? To be quite fast in possession, move the ball quickly, move into them channels, and get in between that low block that sometimes teams are putting up at Horsfall, which is bizarre considering of where we are in the division. But some teams are starting to work out what we're doing, and it was just a bit of quality that really got us that penalty in the second half. Again, I probably thought Stafford started the half arguably better. They had a couple of opportunities to put in the box, but I cannot remember Flavel making a save at all until the last minute of the game. But it was a really, really good run from Lewis here. Really patient build-up again. And some people probably listening will probably pick up on me with a bit of frustration around me at the time, going, we need to move it forward, we need to do this. But we're keeping possession, really patient, waiting for opportunity. And a ball from Lancaster to Lewis was superb. Lewis gone down in the box. From where we were sat, it did look stonewall. They argued. I don't know what the argument was about. They're obviously closer than me. But obviously there was an expectation for Jordan to put the ball in the back of the net, because if I'm being honest, I don't think there was going to be a goal in the game apart from an instant like that. So to win 1-0 were massive. Yeah, they had a free kick. A free kick in the last minute, which Ross tipped over, which was a really decent save from him. But having spoken with the lads and even Danny at the end of the game, they were just delighted just to get the win. The performance didn't really matter. It was just a matter of getting 3 points on the board. Got Warrington Ranners on the weekend, which Warrington are not in the best of form. They've lost Michael Clegg to Macclesfield. Arguably the best player's gone to St Johnstone as well in recent weeks. So there seems to be a glimmer of hope. Don't get me wrong, still in relegation zone on goal difference. And there will be at some point where some of the teams will probably have a bit more momentum than what they've got now. And arguably looking at guys to probably do Avenue a favour tomorrow at the Schooner, because obviously that's a massive game for both teams, really at different ends of the table. But for Avenue's perspective, they just needed to get the job done, which it did, which was encouraging because, I think if I'm being honest, and I said it to some of the lads and some of the players at the end of the game, I think 3-4 months ago they lose that game. I really do. But this time they just seemed to be quite solid, stick to the process, needed to know what they were doing, and they stuck to it. They didn't deviate from the plan. So yeah, it was a huge, huge victory. And also, I've got to say as well, while we're on it, joke aside with Bradford City and Notts County, before that, there were a load of City fans and Notts County fans that came to the game. And I know that there's some photos being done on social media. They said there were about 850 there. They looked a lot more, if I'm being honest, than that. But there were a lot of clubs, a lot of fans came down from both clubs. Don't get me wrong, showing the colours, City colours and Notts County colours. I know a lot of Notts County fans actually bought some merchandise, bought shirts, and stood around us and chatting with us. And it brought a real buzz back to the Horsefall, which, if people have been to Horsefall Stadium, does lack an atmosphere because of the nature of the stadium that it is, with a running track and all that goes with it. But it was nice to see that, there were a lot of kids and academy players that were there, fans coming down. It just had a bit of a different feel, which is what Avenues lacked for a long, long time. And I know that didn't go unnoticed by Danny at the end, and a special load for that. Put a lot of work into making that happen. Don't get me wrong, it can't happen just one game, but it's that kind of mentality where Danny does talk about everybody's in it together. It's not just us and them. It's, it has been, if I'm being honest, a club which has been quite segmented in both, off the pitch and sometimes on the pitch between both lots of different groups. But it was encouraging to see that, because I know that the likes of Tom and Callum and recently Shez has been talking about getting that buzz back, and it seemed to have that, which was really good to see.
Yeah, how do you feel about those elements that are coming together behind the scenes at Avenue? Obviously, there's been a bit of a change at kind of every level. Obviously Danny coming in, it's 3 months into his kind of tenure. How are you feeling about the club in general now? Because obviously we know there was a lot of discontentment when we had big chats before about the problems. How are you feeling now?
Yeah, and like I said, I don't think it's a secret that some people like certain things that were being done and this, that, and the other. And that's not to say that people didn't work as hard as possible to make it work. It just didn't work for whatever reason, just didn't happen and materialise as probably what they hoped it would be. Sometimes change is good. Sometimes people are afraid of change, and the club needed checking up off the pitch and on the pitch, if I'm being honest, because it was failing on the pitch and basically off the pitch of what it wanted to achieve. So in terms of where we are now, I think there's a huge amount of work to be done. I think it's encouraging to see what I saw on Saturday. Like I say, I've not been for the past couple of weeks, so there was a notable difference. As we all fickle football fans, winning matches massively helps. Just raise the kind of positivity and a bit more atmosphere. But there just seems to be a lot of, how can I put it? The stuff that's happening that you actually see on the ground that is taking shape, and it can be a very small things, such as they had a musician, for instance, just playing before pre-match, which is literally nothing in the grand scheme of things, but it just enhances a bit of matchday experience. It gets some people going, oh, they've actually got something entertainment on. People can go and watch him, or get, maybe even a song request or something like, as crazy as it sounds, it just brings people involved in it. And do I think it's changed? I think it's changed a little bit. I think there's a massive amount of work to go. I think both in terms of kind of the operational side of things, bringing people back into the Horsefall that are still staying away because of how they feel the club is run. And I know that because I've got some really good friends who don't go to Avenue because of the situation that we have been in. So there's probably a few angles to it where you've got to convince kind of long-standing fans to come back. You've got to convince some people to come every week, and then you've got to convince the likes of floating fans, for instance, like City, who came on Saturday, that if City's not playing, you've got to convince them to come and support or just be there on the game. You don't even necessarily have to support Avenue, but money behind the till, merchandise, teas, coffees, chips, all that goes with it. So there's a lot of angles to it, but it's very small steps. But what I'm seeing at the moment is positive. They just need to keep doing that, because when everybody's kind of working together, that's when results happen both on and off the pitch. And I think this is where some fans, including myself in recent seasons, have been a little bit disillusioned with what's going on.
Yeah, indeed. Good stuff. No game for Guiseley this weekend, but what else has caught your eye when you cast it among the non-league world, Lou?
So in the Marley Derby, Route 1 won that one, which I know wouldn't have pleased Josh, but I know it would have pleased the Route 1 guys there. That just keeps the momentum going in second place. This weekend as well, it is that big tie. Hopefully it does go ahead. I'm guessing it will do with the weather kind of picking up a little bit. But obviously Emily go to Worcester City, which is a massive game. Probably the tie that both teams didn't want. It could have easily been a final. But I know that there seems to have sold out the allocation from Emily to go down to Worcester, which is a really great achievement. So hopefully Emily come back and go a step closer to Wembley, which I know, Steve, you're keen on as well.
Yeah, well, they've got bigger fish to fry in the league, and that is the ultimate goal. But it'd be lovely if they could beat probably what is the best or one of the best teams left in the tournament. So in the competition, sorry. So yeah, I think wish them all the best of luck. And if it, Richard Tracy will be doing everything he can to be getting a result out of that game, and it's massive financially for the club as well. But if it comes to an end, I'm sure that Richard will just move straight on to the next game. That's what he's good at doing, and focusing the players up for the league, because there's some massive fixtures coming up for them in the league. Garforth, Campion, and the likes as well.
Yeah, there's some big games, and I went to watch one. I mean, I can't tomorrow because I'm getting a year older tomorrow, so I've got to take a dip away from football tomorrow night. But I went to Garforth last week. Tomorrow, yeah.
Happy birthday for tomorrow.
And then,
you kept that quiet, didn't you?
I know.
Yeah, there's a reason why. Yeah, getting old now. But yeah, I went last week to watch Garforth. Who, don't get me wrong, they played Bottersford, who probably weren't the greatest as opposition for them, but Garforth looks really good as well in that final third. And I think what's really positive, I've said this before, but I keep kind of banging the drum on it, that you look at teams in our local area: Emily top of the league, Campion second, Garforth third, Fackley fifth, Albion Sports sixth, Golker eighth, Silsden ninth. There's some really, really good teams in this league, and I think, like you said, Steve, there's some absolutely massive fixtures. And looking in, especially in that league, I called it beginning of this season. It was one that I wanted to go and watch a lot this season. I thought it would be one of the tightest and the most entertaining to watch. Like I said, tomorrow I think Garforth hosting Emily, massive. And then obviously Emily have got the FA Vars, and then they've got Campion away, then they've got Silsden at home. So if Emily come out of that with probably 6 points, I think they win the league. I still think they will anyway. But there's some massive, massive fixtures going on. So some big ones tomorrow, there's some big ones at the weekend. So yeah, again, keep on saying it, but do try and support local clubs, because there's a lot of clubs who've been recently postponed due to the weather, and it massively hurts them. And having to rearrange it for a Tuesday night doesn't always work in their favour. And I know that there's even the likes of I think Liversidge at some point might have to play, I think it's almost like 10 or 11 games before the season's done. So they might have to play 2-3 times a week, which is just unbelievable. So if you can go and help him, because it makes a huge, huge difference.
Yeah, just one thing I wanted to just bring up here is Ian's comment, because Ian obviously watches every week. We really appreciate it. I'm like, Lou, I stopped going to Avenue when City were away due to being verbally abused several times. No need for it. Nah, absolutely not, mate. Sorry to hear that. No. That happened there. We don't want to see that kind of thing.
No. I'd suggest, Ian, as well, if you've got the club are really responsive as well to kind of any issues that you may have had in the past, and hopefully that can be rectified. But I know the club are very proactive in getting people back on board. Exactly, your kind of occasion then. So I would suggest to go and drop them an email. And to be honest, I know that some of the guys who help run the club watch this podcast as well, so they may try and get in contact as well. But yeah, I mean, that shouldn't be the case at any game at all.
No, exactly. One from here, Stevie as well. Bradford Park MU, that's a club I used to go to years ago when I lived in Leeds. Now I watch Bishop Auckland because it's close. Fair dues to you, mate. Good stuff. I've just seen the Arsenal Sheffield United score. What is it now? 6-0?
Yeah, still
Ben White just scored. The Ben White.
Ben White, there we go.
To make it 6 or to make it 7?
6.
I saw some Sheffield United fans that were heading for like the the exits where the seats were. Whether they were actually leaving the game, I don't know, but that was after 13 minutes.
Yeah, they were. As soon as that third goal went in, some started leaving.
Wow, blimey.
One was a blind person as well. obviously a comment from
Yeah, I've
me.
seen
It's
that.
obviously but
like at the end of it.
Just before we go, just a couple of comments I did want to flash up. Not to drag our earlier debate up again, but I just wanted to just flash up a couple of things, just for balance. Andrew here. These Leeds fans need to watch some Leeds games from the 70s. Hilarious. Suddenly being tough is an issue.
It's not the 70s.
And
50
Johnny,
years ago.
ball in play, 22 minutes. Town players spent more time rolling on the grass. Hogg should have got a straight red, a joke of a footballer. There we go. I don't think we're ever going to settle this debate, are we, really, to be honest?
No, we're all friends now, Steve, until you just brought it back up. Cheers, mate.
I was going to say,
I'm not letting go of this one. Sorry, guys. I'm not letting go. Bitter to the end.
Look, overall, good stuff.
All right.
It's a good point. It's a good point for both, and we move on, and we've got big fixtures ahead now, and we both need to carry on winning. Big couple of months now for both clubs, isn't it? At both ends of the table.
Yep.
So
one big happy West Yorkshire football show family. There we go. Very nice way to end it, I think, isn't it?
No,
what? What did you say, Downsy?
I want to bring something up with Chris next week. Me and Chris are going.
Oh, all right.
back.
Oh, fair enough.
He's lagging out, isn't he? He's lagging out.
All right, we'll wait and see on that
lagging
one.
out.
Yeah, we'll get ready for that.
That's not a season and a half, is it?
Thanks for everyone who's watched and commented live. Please make sure you smash a like on the video, subscribe to the channel as well for future content. And if you're watching this again later, get your comments in on how you thought we all got on and what you've made of today's debate, which was certainly a little bit fiery earlier on, but all good stuff. We'll be back again. Jason, tomorrow, match review. Are we doing it, mate?
I'm here, mate. I mean, I do this as much as I do my full-time job at this stage. So, yeah, I'll be on, mate.
I know. We just ignore our families at this point, don't we?
I do, mate. I can't remember what my missus looks like. So, yeah, I'll be here, mate.
Exactly. It's got to be done. Commitment, that's all.
10:30, right? Something like that?
Yeah, just the 10:30. Yeah, not a problem. But yeah, I want to thank all the contributors as well. Stephen Downs, Jason Booker, Chris Bell, and Lewis Sale. Thanks to you guys. I've been Stephen Brown, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks for watching.